You're listening to the Royalty of Rock, a celebration of the rock empire on KRKO. I'm your host, Don Bigsby, along with co-host Mike Harrison, paying tribute to the kings and queens of rock and roll. This hour, we'll examine one of rock's most popular bands, The Doors, along with the legend of their lead singer, Jim Morrison. Rock journalist Cameron Crowe.
You know, it's amazing. The Doors are, of course, now more successful than they ever were when they were around. And it's interesting, you get these 15-year-old kids whose favorite group are the Doors. And you see these Doors bumper stickers on cars and these little guys driving, you know, and you wonder, geez, what is it about the Doors that affects you? And once again, it's a couple of things. It's a feeling that the Doors were around in a time that was more exciting, when there wasn't so much talk of the moral majority and you know, just the boring nature of the times. A lot of kids especially, feel like they're doing battle with the age of boredom, and the Doors represent these figures from a much more exciting.
From Los Angeles, California, The Doors!
There's also the aspect that Jim Morrison was a one-to-one performer. This wasn't a guy who was making to appeal. You know, this wasn't a guy who was training for platinum. You know, Jim Morrison was a guy that lived hard, sang hard, lived his music, loved his music, was a poet, and was intense.
I'll keep you wild on the road, you hand upon the wheel. I'll keep you eyes on the road, you hand upon the wheel. Come to the road, that's gonna have a good time. Yeah, the back of the road has to got some bungalows. Out the back of the road has to got some bungalows. Just for the people like to go down slow. Let it roll, let it roll. Let it roll, let it roll. Let it roll, let it roll. Let it roll. All night long. Yeah, man, come on. You gotta roll, 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 gotta fill my soul, alright. Roll, 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 gotta fill my soul. You gotta chop the cool, come, get down to cheat on. Bum, bum, ba, beep, bop, ba, lula, con, chi, no, eat, don't, chi, it, that's all. Pop the cue, guitar, kinda not a cool, low, chow. But you told me, Bob, no. Chow, no, chow, mo. Ba, no, chow, go. Don't it, alright. Ashen lady, fashion lady. Give up your vows. Give up your vows. Save our city. Save our city right now. Well, I woke up this morning, got myself a beer. Girl, I woke up this morning, I got myself a beer. And I get the doctor, the end is always near. Let it roll, baby, roll. Let it roll, baby, roll. Let it roll, baby, roll. Let it roll all night long.
James Douglas Morrison was born in Melbourne, Florida, the son of a rear admiral in a family of military men. After graduating from high school, he spent a year in junior college before moving on to Florida State University. In 1964, he moved again, this time to California, where he enrolled in the theater arts department at UCLA. It was there that he first met Ray Manzarek, an accomplished pianist and a rock keyboard player, and a year later they began talking about forming a band that would go on to carve itself a primary niche in rock culture for all time to come. It was Manzarek who filled out the rest of the Doors lineup, recruiting guitarist Robbie Krieger and drummer John Densmore, whom he met at a meditation center in L.A. Writer, photographer, and Morrison chronicler Frank Lisiandro.
The first time I saw Jim and the Doors play was at the London Fog, which was the first night they ever played anywhere on the Strip, and the first real performance that they had, other than a party or something like that. And that was an interesting evening because they invited everyone from the film school. Most of us were in the process of graduating or had graduated from our film studies at that time, but we were all hanging around town in some way, and we were invited to, all of us were invited to kind of pack the house so that the owners would get a good impression of this band that they could draw. I remember Jim singing out of key most of the night, having his back turned to the audience, the band being more or less tight, but Jim being shy and withdrawn and a little self-conscious, more than a little self-conscious. I didn't have one hope in the world for them making it, especially with that lead singer.
You know the day destroys the night, night divides the day. Try to run, try to hide, break on through to the other side, break on through to the other side, break on through to the other side, yeah. We chased our pleasures here, dug our treasures there, but can you still recall the time we cried? Break on through to the other side, break on through to the other side.
We'll have more from the Doors in a moment, when the royalty of rock continues. The royalty of rock continues now with our salute to Jim Morrison and the Doors. With the legend and personal popularity of Morrison continuing to grow after his death, writers have frequently focused on him as an individual, rather than his relationship to and with the Doors as a group. Noted journalist Michael Fink.
I don't know if you can look at them separately. I was a tremendous Doors fan, still am. I think the Doors were one of the most important groups to emerge from the 60s. And why I say I don't think you can separate Morrison from the other three is because it was such a total sound. I think that Ray Manzarek's keyboard work in the Doors, on Doors records, really, he gave a bottom to that sound, which, without having a real bass player in the group, Doors made good music.
You know that it would be untrue. You know that I would be a liar if I was to say to you, girl, we couldn't get much higher. Come on, baby, light my fire. Come on, baby, light my fire. Try to set the night on fire. The time to hesitate is through. No time to wallow in the mire. Try now, we can only lose, and our love become a funeral pyre. Come on, baby, light my fire. Come on, baby, light my fire. Try to set the night on fire. is through. No time to wallow in the mire. Try now, we can only lose, and our love become a funeral pyre. Come on, baby, light my fire. Come on, baby, light my fire. Try to set the night on fire. Yeah. You know that it will be untrue. You know that I would be a liar if I was to say to you, girl, we couldn't get much higher. Come on, baby, light my fire. Come on, baby, light my fire. Try to set the night on 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 fire.
Jim Morrison's immediate family consisted of his parents, a younger brother, Andy, and a younger sister, Ann. And this man, Ann's husband, Alan Graham.
Jim had a way of putting, he was a very astute man. He had a way of putting everybody at ease if he wanted to. If he didn't, he didn't. But he had a way of making you feel, to us, he was like a big brother. He was my age, but somehow he'd taken on this big brother status. And of course, we adored him. We thought he was the greatest thing since sliced bread, but we never treated him like a rock star. We talked to him like you and I would talk.
Come on, come on, come on, come on, now touch me, babe. Can't you see that I am not afraid? What was that promise that you made? Why won't you tell me what she said? What was that promise that you made? Now I'm gonna love you till the heavens stop the rain. I'm gonna love you till the stars fall from the sky for you and I. Come on, come on, come on, come on, now touch me, babe. Can't you see that I am not afraid? What was that promise that you made? Why won't you tell me what she said? What was that promise that you made? I'm gonna love you till the heavens stop the rain. I'm gonna love you till the stars fall from the sky for you and I. I'm gonna love you till the heavens stop the rain. I'm gonna love you till the stars fall from the sky for you and I.
Jim Morrison was one of the most literate of all rock stars, a characteristic that went all the way back to his childhood. His sister, Ann Morrison Graham.
When I needed a book to read, he always had a book I could read. I always knew the right one at the right age. And he'd he knew he could always recommend a book. And as I went to college, I went to college in Florida also, and he left behind a box of books in my grandma's attic, and I used them through my college times. And my teachers thought I was very avant-garde because they hadn't even heard of half of them. And now, even now, I hear the names coming up more, and people are using them, like Rimbaud and Verlaine and Pirandello and people like that. And back in '65, even my professors hadn't read those yet.
Before you slip into unconsciousness, I'd like to have another kiss, another flashing chance at bliss, another kiss, another kiss. The days are bright and filled with pain. Enclose me in your gentle rain. The time you ran was too insane. We'll meet again. We'll meet again. Your freedom lies, the streets are fields that never die. Deliver me from reasons why you'd rather cry, I'd rather fly. The crystal ship is being filled, 1,000 girls, 1,000 thrills, 1,000,000 ways to spend your time. When we get back, I'll drop the line.
We'll have more in our salute to the Doors in a moment, when the Royalty of Rock continues. This is the Royalty of Rock, our very special celebration of the most powerful and popular music makers of the rock era. I'm your host, Don Bigsby, along with co-host Mike Harrison, continuing now with our tribute to Jim Morrison and the Doors.
Love me 2 times, baby. Love me twice today. Love me 2 times, girl. I'm gone away. Love me 2 times, girl. 1 for tomorrow, 1 just for today. I'm gone away. Love me 1 time, do not speak. Love me 1 time, yeah, my knees got weak. Love me 2 times, girl. Last me all through the week. Love me 2 times, I've gone away. Love me 2 times, I've gone away. Oh yeah! shine. Could not speak. Love me one time, baby. Yeah, my knees got weak. Love me 2 times, girl. Life's bleak all through the week. Love me 2 times, I'm gone away. Love me 2 times, babe. Love me twice today. Love me 2 times, babe. 'Cause I'm gone away. Love me 2 times, girl. One for tomorrow, one kiss for today. Love me 2 times, I'm gone away. Love me 2 times, I'm gone away. Love me 2 times, I'm gone away.
Frank Lysiandro.
I think Jim wouldn't have minded very much if his public image consisted of what he was on stage solely. But the press got into what he did off stage and made that a large part of the Jim Morrison myth, legend, persona. And Jim really wanted privacy. He grew a beard because he wanted privacy. He hid out an awful lot, but he loved to walk the streets of Hollywood or Venice. He loved to communicate with his friends and people on the street. He wanted to be respected for just the person he was rather than this rock legend. And the media made it very difficult because they wanted to report about Jim Morrison got drunk and insulted so-and-so at a party, or Jim Morrison got kicked out of the Troubadour again last night, or Jim Morrison did this. But in fact, in my estimation, I think he wanted to be known as a rock singer, a rock innovator, rock lyricist, and a poet, a serious poet.
Let's swim to the moon. Let's climb through the tide. Penetrate the evening that the city sleeps too high. Let's swim out tonight, love. It's our time to try. Heart beside the ocean on our moonlight drive. Let's swim to the moon. Let's climb to the tide. Surrender to the waiting worlds that laugh against our side. Nothing left open and no time to decide. We'll step into a river on our moonlight drive. Let's swim to the moon. Let's climb through the tide. You reach your hand to hold me, but I can't be your guide. Easy, I love you as I watch you glide. Fall into it, moonlight drive, baby. Moonlight drive. Come on, baby, gonna take a little ride down by the ocean side. Gonna get real close, get real tight. Baby, go drown tonight, go down, down.
For many years, people didn't know that Jim Morrison had a family. Whenever members of the press would ask about them, Morrison lied and said they were dead. his sister, Ann Morrison Graham.
I think he was protecting the family. I think he knew that we lived in a different world, and he might not always be doing things that everyone would approve of. He wasn't apologizing for it by any means. It just, that was his life. And it might have gotten in the way, and I don't think he expected to be famous. I think that was kind of a surprise, especially so quickly. And I think it was just that he was an individual, and it was his life. It wasn't mine. It wasn't my brother's. It wasn't my parents. And it really had nothing to do with us. He was separate.
People are strange when you're a stranger. Faces look ugly when you're alone. Women seem wicked when you're unwanted. Streets are uneven when you're down. When you're strange, faces come out of the rain. When you're strange, no one remembers your name. When you're strange, when you're strange, when you're strange. People are strange when you're a stranger. Faces look ugly when you're alone. Women seem wicked when you're unwanted. Streets are uneven when you're down. When you're strange, faces come out of the rain. When you're strange, no one remembers your name. When you're strange, when you're strange, when you're strange. Alright, yeah.
We'll have another perspective on the Doors in a moment, including an inside view on the famous Miami incident, when the royalty of rock continues. We're reviewing a pageant of greatness here on KRKO as we pay tribute to the monarchs of rock and roll. You're listening to the Royalty of Rock, a celebration of the rock empire. I'm your host, Don Bigsby, along with co-host Mike Harrison, continuing now with our profile of the Doors.
Waiting, waiting for you to tell me what went wrong. This is the strangest life I've ever known. Can't you feel it now that spring has come? That it's time to live in the scattered sun. Waiting for the sun, waiting for the sun, waiting for the sun. Waiting for the sun.
The turning point in Jim Morrison's career came after the famous Miami concert, which led to his arrest for indecent exposure. His brother-in-law, Alan Graham.
The Miami incident to Jim was the final blow, we believe. He had deliberately invoked the crowd on several occasions for various reasons, because he was angry with them, or because in one incident the police maced him just before the concert because he was kissing a girl in the wrong county or something. So I think Morrison said to himself, I'm a big star here and I'm getting mad, you know, these people are pushing me around. And the cop was probably just some rent-a-car who didn't like a long hair. But Morrison went out on the stage and tried to incite the audience, and they arrested him for that. And so then the jacket of this guy was going around the country inciting riots. You know, when he got to Florida, they were waiting for him in Dade County. You know, that's the Bible Belt. The audience was overstuffed because the promoters wanted to sell a lot more tickets. The stage was shaky. It was not correctly built. Jim was late. It was hot. The mood was in an angry frame of mind. The police were waiting, standing on the side of the stage like Mount Rushmore, you know, all these police waiting there. So Morrison was almost like, here I am being roasted. He knew it. He said to the crowd, you didn't come here to see a good show. You came here to see something better than you've ever seen before, something exciting, right? And they said, right, in unison, because the crowd was mindless mass at this point. And he said, well, what if I show you my... And they said, yes! And he put his coat in front and went, did you see it? Did you see it? You didn't see it, did you? And he was teasing and taunting the audience. Now, what he related to me and what other people said, this is what Jim said to me happened at Miami. And I believe him, because he spoke very truthful to me, I believe. He said he zipped his zipper down, put the microphone out of the front of his zipper, and he did that. You know, like we used to do in the shower when we were kids with a towel and go, and he was just doing that. The police, the bodyguards who were, you know, puritanical jocks, thought Morrison was doing something more than that, but he actually didn't do anything more than put the microphone out of the zipper. He pulled it back in, and then the security guards said, this is it, and pushed Morrison into the crowd, pushed him off the stage because they wanted the concert to stop, so they stopped the concert. Morrison was not arrested at the time. 2 weeks later, they trumped up the charges, I believe.
After Miami, Jim Morrison would never be the same. He finished his contractual obligations with the Doors, recording one more album, and then departed for Paris, where he lived the life of the poet-philosopher until his mysterious death in 1971.
Riders on the storm, riders on the storm. Into this house we're born, into this world we're thrown. Like a dog without a bone, an actor out alone. Riders on the storm. There's a killer on the road. His brain is squirming like a toad. Take a long holiday. Let your children play. If you give this man a ride, sweet family will die. Killer on the road. Yeah. Girl, you gotta love your man. Girl, you gotta love your man. Take him by the hand. Make him understand. The world on you depends. Our life will never end. Gotta love your man. Riders on the storm. Riders on the storm. Into this house we're born. Into this world we're thrown. Like a dog without a bone, an actor out on loan. Riders on the storm. Right.
Jim Morrison and the Doors, innovative, powerful music makers among the royalty of rock. You're listening to The Royalty of Rock, a celebration of the rock empire on KRKO. I'm your host, Don Bigsby, along with co-host Mike Harrison. During the next hour, we're going to explore the personality and the mysterious death of rock legend Jim Morrison, the enigmatic lead singer of The Doors. When Morrison returned to LA following the notorious Miami incident in 1969, one of the first people he contacted was his brother-in-law, Alan Graham.
He called me on the phone in the middle of the night and said to me, I just got back from Miami, and we were talking all about the incident, and I was saying to him, well, you're all right? And he was saying, yeah, what a time and all this, blah, 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 blah. And it was just at the time of the fires. Remember those terrible fires? He said to me, I can't even go to the beach. It's gray. There's ashes on the beach this deep. He said, I said, yeah, it's like the end of the world or something, isn't it? And he said, yeah, it is. He said, I said, have you seen LA? Because he spoke to me of LA as a woman, always. He spoke with, we'd say her and stuff like that. I said, what do you think about your city? And he said, yeah, it's burning. Her is on fire. I see your hair is burning. Hills are filled with fire. Next 2 months that song came out. That's where he described the image to me way before the song came out. Oh, that's not on one occasion, but several occasions. But anyway, if they say I never loved you, you know they are. He could never leave LA because he really loved it.
Well, I dig on in down about an hour ago. Took a look around, they went with a wind blow. With a little girl in a Hollywood bungalow. Are you a lucky little lady in the city of light? Or did you know the lost angel? City of night, city of night, city of night, city of night. Woo! Come on! Suburbs into your blues, into your blues, yeah, into your blue, 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 into your blues. Oh yeah! Your hair is burning. Hills are filled with fire. If they say I never loved you, you know they are a liar. Driving down your freeway, midnight alleys roam. Cops in cars, the topless bars, never saw a woman
mood, you're glad, you're sad now. Mr. Mojo Rising, Mr. Mojo Rising, Mr. Mojo Rising, Mr. Mojo Rising, got to keep on rising. Mr. Mojo Rising, Mr. Mojo Rising, Mojo Rising, got the Mojo Rising, Mr. Mojo Rising, got to keep on rising, riding, riding, on riding, riding, on riding, riding, I got to riding, riding, hey, riding, riding, I got whoa, yeah, riding, oh, yeah. Well, Chicanina down about an hour ago. Took a look around, see which way the wind blows. With a little girl in a Hollywood bungalow. Are you a lucky little lady in the city of light? Or just another long thing, yo? City of night. City of night. City of night. City of night. Wow. Oh.
Now he's in Los Angeles. I come to see him just before he leaves for Paris. Everybody around him is looking for money, and there isn't any money because the lawyer's fees, the boutique, the 60 millimeter cameras and equipment he's bought and paid for, and plus his own massive credit account that he has a credit card and has 50 hangers-on who pays for lunch and dinner and drinks all day and every day. And that's the way Morrison was, and he eventually goes to Paris and is living on a meager salary from his royalties, which are slowly coming in now. The Doors have lost all their play, mostly. They can't get promoted anywhere. Just before he leaves for Paris, they start to open up, a few concerts open up, but Jim didn't want to do outside concerts, so he turned them down. The people around him were angry that they were not making money anymore. That's all I can tell you. Jim decides to go to Paris and recuperate and to write, and he does, right? His last letter, which I have on show you, reflects to the accountant. It's a beautiful day in Paris. I'm happy, and all the sun shining, and a beautiful city, he says, built for human beings. And he's riding in Paris, and then suddenly, from out of nowhere, whomp! The LA Woman is released and goes right to the top of the charts. Right to the very top of the charts. Morrison, The Doors, back on top. And there's some communication between the management and Jim and Paris saying, "Now, it's a good time to come back now," but Morrison wanted to recuperate more.
Don't you love her madly? Don't you need her badly? Don't you love her ways? Tell me what you say. Don't you love her madly? Wanna be her daddy? Don't you love her face? Don't you love her as she's walking out the door? Like she did 1,000 times before. Don't you love her ways? Tell me what you say. Don't you love her as she's walking out the door? All your love, all your love, all your love, all your love, all your love is gone. So sing a lonely song of a deep blue dream. 7 horses seem to be on the mark. Yeah, don't you love her? Don't you love her as she's walking out the door? All your love, all your love, all your love, yeah, all your love is gone. So sing a lonely song of a deep blue dream. 7 horses seem to be on the mark. Don't you love her madly? Don't you love her madly? Don't you love her madly?
More in our profile of Jim Morrison and the Doors in a moment, when the Royalty of Rock continues. The Royalty of Rock continues now with our tribute to Jim Morrison and the Doors. Morrison was one of several major rock stars to die young, in the prime of his life, at the peak of his career, a syndrome all too familiar in the kingdom of rock. Noted rock journalist Robert Christgau speculates on why death elevates rock performers to the status of legends.
Suddenly, what appeared to be an infinite amount of product becomes a very limited commodity. That's one reason that happens, you know, is that that's it. And you have to milk it. I mean, I'm not talking about the companies milking it, which they certainly do. I'm talking about the consumer, him or herself, the receiver of the art, and also, I mean, it gives you, in a sense, you know, then you control. You're in control of what an artist can do. The artist can never surprise you again. He or she is just there for you to be absorbed, re-explored. I think there must be something fairly comforting about that. But for the most part, I mean, it seems to me this is really about the romance of early death, a romance of which I'm highly suspicious myself. I mean, it's very, very deeply rooted in Western culture, and it's not necessarily such a good thing. It's our belief that by dying you achieve by risking death you achieve wisdom. I mean, it really is about that. And so the average romantic record buyer takes a look at the dead artist and says, well, Janice, Jimmy, they had the courage that I didn't have. Well, maybe they were just foolish in a way that this person wasn't. I mean, it's both, you see.
This is the end, beautiful friend. This is the end, my only friend, the end of our elaborate plans, the end of everything that stands, the end, no safety or surprise, the end. I'll never look into your eyes again. Can you picture what will be so limitless and free, desperately in need of some stranger's hand in a desperate land? Lost in a romance, wilderness of pain, and all the children are insane. All the children are insane. Waiting for the summer rain, yeah. There's danger on the edge of town. Ride the King's Highway, baby. Weird scenes inside the gold mine. Ride the highway west, baby. Ride the snake, ride the snake to the lake, the ancient lake, baby. The snake he's long, 7 miles. Ride the snake. He's old and his skin is cold. The West is the best. The West is the best. Get here and we'll do the rest. The bluebird is calling us. The bluebird is calling us. Travel where you taken us. The killer awoke before dawn. He put his boots on. He took a face from the ancient gallery and he walked on down the hall. He went into the room where his sister lived, and then he paid a visit to his brother, and then he walked on down the hall, and he came to a door, and he looked inside. Father, yes son, I want to kill you. Mother, I want to. Come on. Come on, baby, take a chance with us. Come on, baby, take a chance with us. Come on, baby, take a chance with us and meet me at the back of the blue bus tuna, blue rock on the blue bus tuna. Come on, yeah. This is the end, beautiful friend. This is the end, my only friend. The end. It hurts to set you free, you'll never follow me. The end of laughter and soft light. The end of nights we try to die. This is the end.
We'll have more of our look at Jim Morrison and the Doors in a moment, when the Royalty of Rock continues. This is the Royalty of Rock on KRKO, our very special presentation of the best music of the rock era by the greatest music makers of all time. I'm Don Bigsby, along with co-host Mike Harrison, continuing now with our portrait of Jim Morrison and the Doors.
Tell all the people that you see, follow me down. Tell all the people that you see, set them free. Follow me down. You tell them they don't have to run. We're gonna pick up everyone. Come on, take me by my hand. Gonna bury all our troubles in the sand. Oh yeah. Can't you see the wonder at your feet? Your life's complete. Follow me down. Can't you see me growing? Get your guns. The time has come to follow me down. Follow me across the sea where milky babies seem to be, molded, flowing revelry with the one that set them free. Tell all the people that you see, it's just me. Follow me down. Tell all the people that you see, follow me. Follow me down. Tell all the people that you see, we'll be free. Follow me down. Tell all the people that you see, it's just me. Follow me down. Tell all the people that you see, follow me. Follow me down. Follow me down. You got to follow me down. Follow me down. Tell all the people that you see, we'll be free. Follow me down.
The facts surrounding Jim Morrison's death have been sketchy and obscure, leading a growing cult of his fans and followers to cling to the belief, held to this very day, that Morrison never really died, that he literally dropped out of the scene for his own private purposes. Jim Morrison's sister, Ann Morrison Graham.
The mystery around his death it's heightened because of where it happened. It happened in Paris, a very romantic place that we all have, I mean, all the poets and people that came from there, and it's, and we weren't there, and I think people would like him to be alive still, because I think they'd like him to come back. I think they'd like to see. I think he would have been a remarkable older person. I think he would have grown wise, although he was brilliant. I don't think he had achieved the wisdom you get as you age, because you gain a certain knowledge in seeing children grow, and your parents grow old, you know, and yourself grow older. And I think he'd have been a remarkable old man of the letters if he had. And I think people would like to imagine him coming back. Maybe they want a rebel coming back. I don't know. The people that want him to be alive, maybe they're still seeking a rebel figure. But I think also some of them might wanted to see him come back because of what he might have learned.
Although there are no facts to prove that Jim Morrison never died, it's interesting to speculate upon the popular proposition that he may really be alive. What if he suddenly reappeared? The following is a fantasy based upon that thought, a rockudrama, a dramatization of the popular myth that Jim Morrison may still be alive. It is not real.
We interrupt this broadcast for a special news bulletin. It has just been learned that Jim Morrison, the former lead singer of The Doors, thought to have died in Paris in 1971, has been discovered alive and well in Africa. He's flown back to America and is about to hold a press conference at New York's Kennedy Airport. We take you now to that conference, just getting underway.
No, it definitely wasn't a stunt. But I guess you could say there was something I wanted to get away from. In fact, I wanted to get away from everything and everyone. You have to remember, the world was a very different place a decade ago. My life was different, filled with chaos and confusion. I mean, the Doors were sitting on top of the world for a while, but it never really felt right. It was never a good fit. All the fame, the money, all the pressure to make hit records. That was just so much BS, man. Mostly like we were like a flock of birds penned up in this one small cage, with hundreds of people just peering in, hollering for us to fly, to talk, to look at ourselves in a little mirror, to do every trick you can imagine. That's what I wanted to get away from, man. The media had created their own version of us, especially me. They just sort of made up this Morrison monster, and it was never me. After a while, I came to hate that monster they created as much as they did.
How did you decide where to run to?
Well, you see, the first thing I realized is the only time we're ever really finally at peace with ourselves and the rest of the world is when we're dead. I mean, it was simple when I finally locked into it. So I just decided to orchestrate my own demise and be dead for a while. I knew I'd be coming back, stronger than ever. Africa was a place that always intrigued me, man.
What kind of things you learned? What was it like being dead? You wrote a lot about death in your songs. Was this thing a positive experience?
As far as the whole experience of taking myself away from the world and at the same time getting further into the world, gaining a new perspective, I suppose it's more like a worm shedding its cocoon and becoming a butterfly. I've gone through an extraordinary metamorphosis, man. And I feel that I'm ready now to explore the world in another form. I still have elements of the old images inside of me, and the essence of who I am is still the same. But I'm wearing a new skin on the outside. You asked what it was like being dead. Well, you're the only one who can answer that question. You're the only one who can know what it's really like to be dead.
What did you do with your time?
Most of the time I spent alone, but I met a lot of people too. Most of them were very simple folks, and by that I don't mean unintelligent. In fact, some of them were brilliant. They were just uncomplicated. They lived very simple, uncluttered lives. I like that. I really admire that. Of course, I didn't just stay in Africa. I moved all over the continent. I also took a trip into the Himalayas, into ancient capitals of mysticism. I traveled to the far regions of the Orient. I wrote a lot of poetry, and sometimes I wrote music. Most of the time, I just existed, man, like a living sponge, soaking up all the images and information I was exposed to.
You mentioned doing some writing during your travels. What kind of material did you come up with? What kind of insights did you get?
Well, you know, it's kind of funny. I found that what I've learned was basically what I'd known all along. The truth is unchanging, just like all the prophets had said. Only our senses go through phases. I think there's a whole region of images and feelings inside us that rarely are given outlet in daily life. And when they do come out, they can take perverse forms. It's the dark side. Everyone, when he sees it, recognizes the same thing in himself. It's a recognition of forces that rarely see the light of day. The more civilized we get on the surface, the more the other forces make their plea.
We'll return to our dramatization in a moment, when the royalty of rock continues.
Yeah, you over there in the yellow sweater, back of the room, I'll take your question.
While you were gone, were you keeping up on what was going on in the world?
Current events are history, and therefore irrelevant to the lives of almost everyone by the time the sun goes down each day. Sure, I saw newspapers and I was aware of what was going on, but at the same time, nothing new really happened while I was gone. I mean, you want to know what I think of the political events of the past decade, don't you? Well, that's part of your question. Well, face it, man. Politics is the same old suicidal game. You people in the media just compound the problem and prolong the game. You set up the phony ideological debates and wars between cultures. East against west. North against south, black against white. One flag against another. What for? Some of you still haven't managed to crawl out of the dark days of McCarthyism. You still think communists are the greatest threat to our existence, don't you? The truth is, and you wanted to know what I learned, well, the truth is America should team up with the Russians. We should form an alliance with them. We should become friends with our so-called enemies. It's to our mutual advantage, man. No one has anything to gain from a nuclear holocaust. We'd all benefit from a little real communication with one another. We'd all win if, working together, we could find a way to save the world from mass destruction. Don't you really think the Russians would be all ears if we offered them a way to save not only their lives, but the life of the planet?
Jim.
Yeah, okay, go ahead, man. I'm listening.
You know, you caused your family and your friends a lot of grief. Did you care how they felt?
I care very deeply about my family. That's the reason I never spoke much about them in my interviews. I tried to protect them from the kind of pain you guys in the media would cause them. I even lied at times, pretending they were dead. I figured that was the only way of keeping the media off their backs and preserving their privacy. When I decided to let the world think that I had died, I knew a lot of people would cry. I knew my family especially would be hurt at first. But I also knew they were very strong people, and that eventually they would understand, even appreciate what I've done. I also figured there would be a lot of fans who just wouldn't believe I was dead. You know, I purposely made it very vague, very ambiguous, so those people who really knew me could at least wonder and have that to hold on to.
Jim, what are your plans for the future?
Yeah, what are you going to do now?
Will you get back together with the Doors?
No one really picks up where they left off, even from one day to the next. For the future, I intend to merge myself into the universal expanse of the present, of the right now, for whatever time I have left to spend.
The preceding scenario was a dramatization, a rock-you-drama. The role of Jim Morrison was played by Randy Baker.
When the music's over, when the music's over here, when the music's over, turn up the lights, turn up the lights, turn up the lights. Music's over.
when the music's over. When the music's over, turn up the lights, turn up the lights, turn up the lights. Put the music in your special friend. Dance on fires, it intends. Music is your only friend. Until the end, until the end, until the cancel my subscription to the resurrection. Send my credentials to the house of detention. I got some friends inside. The face in the mirror won't stop. The girl in the window won't drop. A feast of friends, alive she cried, waiting for me outside. Before I sing into the big sleep, I want to hear, I want to hear the scream of the butterfly. Come back, baby, back into my arms. We're getting tired of hanging around. Waiting around with our heads to the ground. I hear a very gentle sound. Very near yet very far, very soft yet very clear. Come today, come today. What have they done to the earth? What have they done to our fair sister? Ravaged and plundered and ripped her and bit her, stuck her with knives in the side of the dawn, and tied her with fences and dragged her down. I hear a very gentle sound. With your ear down to the ground. We want the world and we want it. We want the world and we want it. Now. So when the music's over, when the music's over, yeah. When the music's over, turn out the lights, turn out the lights, turn out the lights. While the music is your special friend, dance on fires, Indian turns, music is your only friend. Till the end, until the end, until the end.
On behalf of myself, WRKO, and my co-host Mike Harrison, we thank you for listening to The Royalty of Rock, a celebration of the rock empire. I'm Don Bigsby.